Yeah, so look, this is a hard question because of the position you're in, thinking about your family situation versus that of the country. But I'm asking you for a moment. It's a hard thing to do, but just to wear the hat of a citizen and then to put yourself back in your position and see how you see it. So yeah, absolutely, no, but wear your citizen hat rather than your family hat, even though that's a hard thing to do.
Right.
So here's what I would say. Okay, if I was in the position of your parents, probably if anybody here were in the position of your parents in another country seeking a better life in the United States, and you've got presidents for the last, frankly, 5 decades, with the exception of Donald Trump, who have given you a wink and a nod to come over, probably most of us in this audience would have done the same thing too. I don't actually blame those people. I do blame the policymakers who created the incentives to enter this country illegally in the first place. And so the way I look at it is my parents, they came to this country legally through the front door, and we're a nation founded on the rule of law. If we're founded on the rule of law, right, if that's one of the things, of all of the races and creeds and ages we have in this audience, if there's one thing that unites us, it's that we have certain ideals, like we believe in the rule of law. If we believe in that, that means your first act of entering this country cannot actually break the law. And so wearing our hat as a citizen, we got to have only consent granted to those who enter legally. And if you entered in a way that didn't follow the rules, that's where Donald Trump's coming from to say that we need mass deportations, not because all of them are bad people, but because we have bad policies in this country that actually created those incentives in the first place. So don't take that as an affront or an insult to your parents personally, who I'm sure are good people to raise a young man like you who's as thoughtful as you've been in asking this question. But when we're looking at what's in the best interest of the country, we're a nation founded on the rule of law. We got to follow the rule of law if we're ever going to revive an immigration system that actually makes sense and advances the best interest of this country. That's where I land.
I agree with that. I agree that when I put on my citizen hat, I can understand from a citizen's perspective, it makes sense. But I also agree with the point that it is not the fault of the people who crossed the border in the early 90s when it was fairly easy. It's the fault of the policymakers and the politicians. And it feels like
Donald Trump understands that. He's married to an immigrant, right? Other members of his family also have done the same. So I think, and I'm married to a kid of legal immigrants. I am one myself as well. So most of us in this country intuitively understand that. But I think the thing that's been extreme. So you brought up one of the reasons you have trouble voting for Donald Trump is because of maybe the extreme rhetoric on the issue of immigration. So the way I look at this is what's been actually extreme is our policies. What's extreme is 30+ million people crossing a border over the course of 4 years, where you have 350,000 kids that have gone undocumented for. That actually is the extreme policy to which we demand, I think, an appropriate level of anger to marshal the energy to fix the problem. So, are you going to love everything Donald Trump says about this issue? Apparently not, and that's fair. But when you're looking at who's going to do what's best for the country, I still come down on the side of what's clear. Actions speak louder than those words. Follow the actions, and that's how we're going to save our country.